Hey guys, everyone, Ryuu right here, and today I'm doing a different video to say the least. Now, of course, I say that with all my videos, but today's video is actually going to be quite different because today I'm going to talk about my original species, the Keepers. And you're probably wondering why I'm not wearing a Keeper-specific suit for this video, because right now I'm wearing Ryuu, who is not a Keeper. They are an Orb Dragon. That's a very different species, and the reason why I'm doing that is because Ryuu is just easier to wear, and that's the reason why. Okay, settled it down. And I'm also working on a remake of Louis, so that's not finished, so I'm gonna finish that and then eventually start maybe record with him. I don't know, still debating, but whatever. So yeah, today's video topic is gonna be about the Keeper species. And today's video, and it will be kind of like, I'm gonna try to like best explain the Keepers the best I can, which I might struggle with a little bit, but whatever. So yeah. So the first thing I want to talk about with Keepers is their overall anatomy. Because Keepers do have a very particular anatomy that I would rather people keep like pretty accurate to the actual original description. Because I do get a bit annoyed whenever I see people not do that fully accurately, because I have had a few friends try to like draw a Keeper and they kind of do it poorly. So there is a very particular anatomy description. Like I'll put a picture of like what a Keeper kind of looks like in general. The basic description of a Keeper is they're a mask wearing beast that tends to live in very Arctic climates. Basically, they have overall, a Keeper tends to have very fluffy or very thick fur that is not very thin in the slightest. It's very thick and very fluffy. Keepers tend to have very small, nubby tails, but can have longer tails, depending on the breed, I guess. But, well, not depending on the breed. Depending on, like, their heritage and stuff, but, like, Keepers can have either long or short tails. Keepers will almost always have hooved feet, meaning that their feet will have two-toed hooved feet, meaning that their hooves have two toes. Those meaning that their feet will kind of look like a lot like a deer's hoof, but very thick. So kind of like I guess kind of like a goat. I don't know. My voice is correct. I'm sorry, but whatever. So yeah, basically Keepers will have a two-toed hoof. It's very particular about that, but it can't be any other type of hoof. That's just the type of hoof that Keepers tend to have. But despite having a hoofed feet, they'll also have hand paws instead of actual hoofed paws. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because one, it's easier to draw, and two, it's like Keepers are an intelligent species, so they need to be able to pick stuff up, and with hoofed paws you can't really do that, I guess. So that was my reasoning for that, but whatever. And yeah. Basically, Keepers tend to... Yeah, and because of Keepers' Arctic climate, that's why they have the mask. Like, the mask is probably the most important and most notable aspect of a Keeper. Keepers will tend to have a masked face, and that masked face is actually there to protect them from cold. You see, the way that a Keeper lives is... Oh, by the way, I should probably mention this too. Keepers live in Arctic climates, and their mask is actually not is a physical part of the body, meaning that the mask cannot be fully removed from the Keeper's face. Meaning that the Keeper has to wear the mask 24/7, and it cannot be removed by any means necessary. And if you try to remove it, you will kill the Keeper, basically. That's basically what will happen. It's a physical part of the Keeper's body. So yeah. How our Keepers can eat, and how they do it is they will basically lift up the bottom part of their mask to consume food. That's how they do it. So yeah, they basically they have this flap under their mouth, on the lower part of their mask that they lift up to consume food. Now obviously they can't consume a lot of food by doing that, but they can only consume very small amounts, meaning they don't eat a whole lot. And that's actually pretty normal for a Keeper, because Keepers tend to eat very small amounts of food. They don't need a whole lot of food, they just need very small amounts, because they tend to retain fat easier, meaning that Keepers tend to be more chubbier, I guess. Like, Keepers are not skinny creatures, they are very chunkier creatures. Like, most Keepers can be chunky, some creatures can be very skinny, but most tend to lean to more chunkier Keepers. Like, more purebred keepers are chunkier. So yeah. I should also probably mention the 5 feathers on a keeper's forehead and what those are. Those 5 feathers are known as the crown of the keeper. They're there to basically kind of express emotion, kind of like how ears express emotion in like most other animals. The feathers are there to kind of like fold forward or back to express interest or fear or various other emotions through their feathers. They act like ears in a way. Keepers don't hear with their feathers, but they are very sensitive and use their feathers to basically detect wind and like how strong it is and whether or not they need to take shelter or whatnot. It's basically kind of like it's hard to explain why keepers have those feathers, but they basically have those feathers to detect wind, and they use those feathers as also a magical property to detect possible events and whatnot. Also, I should probably mention that the keeper's sixth sense. Keepers have a sixth sense. The sixth sense is basically their ability to detect what's going to happen in the next like few seconds, basically. Basically, they can predict the future, but like a premonition, but they can't detect what that future is going to be exactly. They can see like partial like bits and pieces of the future, but they can't detect or see the future directly. Like they can kind of see it, but like very loosely. So yeah. Like they can only detect like like they can make like a guesstimate. They can make a guess about what the future is going to be, but it has to be it's like the immediate future, and like if it's something really bad or really good that's going to happen. Keepers can only make a slight guess to that. So yeah. Also, important note, keepers can have ears. It's not a common trait, but keepers can also have like little wolf ears or little bunny ears. Like that's a trait that can happen occasionally, but it's not very common. So, but I figured I'd mention it. So yeah, that's something that's another little aspect I decided to make up. So yeah, that's basically the keeper, like partially the keeper anatomy. As keepers tend to like that's most of the keeper lore that I have right now. There are some other aspects like keepers tend to live in a very Arctic environment. But they can live in warmer environments, but when they do, they tend to lose a lot of that fluff because they live in a warmer environment, so they're going to need less fur. They're not going to have no fur, not that, but they're going to have less fur. And when that happens, basically keepers become another breed of keeper known as the mainland keeper. Mainland keepers are basically keepers with less fluff and are less thick, so they tend to have less bulk, I guess. Most keepers will have bulk, but like mainland keepers tend to not have that much chubbiness. Like they tend to be more skinnier, I guess. Like it's not very like obviously keepers can like I don't know. This is hard to explain, I'm sorry. Like keepers in the mainland tend to have less fluff up and whatnot, but they can still like there are obviously keepers in the mainland that do have more fluff. It's all genetics and whatnot, so eh. And there are obviously keepers in the Arctic that like have a lot less fluff than other keepers, but they still have it, so eh. But whatever. Basically those are the big types of keepers, but really those two types of keepers are not two different breeds. They're actually pretty much the same breed of keeper. They just happen to look a little different because of the environment that they live in. But outside of that, they tend to like, there's really no defining definition of like, there's no two different breeds of keepers. They're really all just the same at the end of the day. So, yeah. So, yeah. But really that's just kind of evolution, I guess, for you, so I don't know. So, yeah. And that's really the basic information for keepers. Keepers tend to have a lot of facts and information about them that I might go into in future videos a little more. I know I did a video in the past about keepers, but that video was old and crap, and I was dying in that video, and I'm still dying in this video, but I was dying in that older video. So that's why I decided to redo the whole thing, and possibly do a better explanation since I actually have editing skills and whatnot nowadays, so yay. And yeah. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like, subscribe, and I'll see y'all dudes in the next one. Peace out.
If I were to the sea